thank you very much. And I've got my first problem as a theatre director, which is where's the light? I know that you've got lots of it over there, and I know that it's not very good here, but I think somewhere around here there's enough of it. Am I right? Is this the most lit space? It's really important to stand in the light and be seen. That's a very obvious thing to say if you're a theatre director. Actors instinctively know to find their light, not because they're egomaniacs, but because if you want to communicate something to other people, they have to see you. It was really interesting to see Anthony Gormley's pedestal project, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, because the basis of that idea is that for a short time, on the hour, every hour, an arbitrary group of people can stand for an hour on a pedestal in full light and be seen and speak of what they want to say, or just stand there to be seen. And the symbolism of saying that actually it could be utterly arbitrary who stands on a pedestal for a while, and it could be utterly arbitrary in terms of who has the right to be seen and heard. I think that's a very provocative and stimulating idea, because it automatically throws the gauntlet down about what values are we ascribing to pedestal standing, and are we happy that any number of people and any one of us could legitimately say, just for an hour, I want to stand on this pedestal and have you look at me while I communicate something about who I am or what I believe. I'm not sure that everybody believes that everybody has something to offer to the world. Now, I'm going to take it as read that you all do, because I don't know why you would self-select to come to a conference like this unless you were people who wanted to change the world for the better. But I have my reasons to think that not everybody believes that. Not everybody believes that the world should be constantly being changed for the better. It was said this morning that the world can be quite conservative with a small c, and it certainly can be. And the idea that everybody has this spark inside this flint and you've just got to find it, not only is not a self-evident truth to everybody, but even if it is a truth, it's a truth that some people would rather wasn't the case, or would rather that spark was never lit, because it can be very inconvenient and frightening to feel that everybody has something to offer, everybody could stand in the light, everybody has a right to get on that pedestal. Now, you've self-selected for something which sounds quite innocuous, really. What's it called? The curriculumfoundation.org. I mean, it sounds as if it's probably already in existence. But I can tell from what's being said this morning and from the brief conversations that I've had with the organisers that actually this is a radical movement. It's a radical movement because it takes back from politicians and political quangos, it takes back from them the right to determine what subject matter and methodology of subject matter and style of engagement and encounter are we giving to our young people and ourselves. It's taking back from those people and placing it in the hearts and minds and authority of people like yourselves. That's a radical thing to do. And in order to do that, not only do some people like Mick, like Peter, have to stand up in the light and be counted, but it means that all of you have got to do that as well. And I just wondered how you felt about that. And I'm just using my own experience of, generalized cowardice to think this through a little bit. You will all have had the experience, I think, of people saying to you things like, well, why are you going to do that? Or, what's your real agenda? Or, isn't that a bit ambitious? Or worse things than that, like, well, you're obviously angling for promotion, or, you know, there's a whole kind of array of things that crowd around people who want to make a difference. Because it's a bit like people who don't want to be on a diet, or don't want to give up smoking, or don't want to do something. They always have a vested interest in trying to make sure that everybody else joins them in that drink, in that cream cake, and in that fag, because they don't really want people to make them feel guilty for not doing these things. By the way, I'm completely in favour of cream cake, so please don't get me wrong. So it's always, I think, a frightening and personal act to decide that you're going to be one of those people who will try to inspire the world to change. Because you can't do it all by yourself. You have to talk about it, you have to stand in the light, you have to stand up and be counted, and then other people will do some work, I think, to try to stop you in your tracks or pull you off your pedestal. And when you're talking about big institutional changes, big organisational changes, and taking on, you know, governments' sort of view that actually they should be in charge, that can get you into quite a lot of professional hot water and do your career some damage, I've seen in some cases. But I said to David Putnam this morning in admiration, "You're so dogged." Because I've watched David Putnam for over 25 years, doggedly trudging through the snow like good King Wenceslas, making sure that he sets out some footsteps for other people to stand in. And always the same thing, always the same idea, that actually, in the end, humans have rights, and those rights are yet unfulfilled for so many of them. And not only can rights be taken away, as he so frighteningly suggested this morning, but they haven't all been given out yet, not by any means. And so all of us have a responsibility, I think, to stand in the footsteps of the good King Wenceslases that have gone before and keep on treading doggedly down those very, very important paths to human justice. And secondly, where there's absolutely clear snow and nobody's gone and trodden there before, you just have to gird your loins and pack up your rucksack and set off in that snow to start the footprints yourselves. Because unless that happens, well, the world doesn't change. I was directing a piece recently called Lost in the Stars, and it was written by Kurt Weill and Maxwell Anderson in 1949, based on the book Cry My Beloved Country. And it was about South Africa in the 40s, before apartheid was actually legalized, but when apartheid existed just as a natural frame of reference. And it's a very sophisticated piece, very well written. And there's an argument between a black reverend and a white landowner about justice, about the fact that a young man has admitted guilt to something, and therefore could he have some mercy in his sentence. And the white landowner says, there are only a handful of whites to control the great tide of blacks, and the blacks have no will to control themselves. In fact, they have no mind for it.